Frankie, just having had 24 hours to think about it and taking into consideration the season, the series, the game itself, what changes do you feel need to happen in Toronto?
This would be the year that a lot of changes need to happen, Jay. And if you want to go back through the timeline, it was probably teetering on insanity when they lost to Montreal and you didn't make any changes. It probably was a little insane last year when they didn't make any changes. But this year, if you don't make any changes, it is past the point of insane. Like, things need to happen. And that's in management, that's on the bench, that's as far as the group goes, the core four. This would be the year. And let's be honest, Matthews and Nylander are not going anywhere. They're here. They've signed extensions. Matthews is one of the best players in the NHL. William Nylander has been the best playoff performer for this team. So now that leaves you with two guys that can possibly go. One guy's older. One guy is a good player, a very good player, struggles in the playoffs. Like, you can figure out who needs to be the guy that moves on, that gives this team an adequate package coming back. And then, of course, there's going to be external moves. I think there needs to be one more internal move. And this is Austin Matthews' team. And with John Tavares having one more year left on his deal, and uncertainty about what his future holds with the organization, like this, the keys kind of need to go to 34 here. There needs to be a different voice, a different opinion, a different way of doing things, whether it's right or wrong. Nothing has worked for this team. They have one playoff series win in 8 years. So what do you have to lose by trying something different? There needs to be external changes. There needs to be internal changes. And it's past the point of insanity now if it doesn't get done.
So, Frankie, just to clarify, if it's up to you, you're taking the C off Tavares and you're giving it to Matthews starting next season.
Well, okay, that may sound a little harsh, Jay, but the reality is, and John Tavares has been a great soldier for this team. We have to keep something in mind. He was the player from Toronto that chose to come home. And The money was great, but the money was going to be even better elsewhere. He wanted to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. And if you look at the points per game in the regular season and all that kind of stuff, like, he really held up his end of the bargain. Now, we've reached the end of the road here. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and it's very clear, like, it's been Matthews' team for a lot of time. He's been the best player. And this is not something that's new as far as changing your leadership within the group. The San Jose Sharks did it multiple times, whether it was Thornton or Marleau. The Los Angeles Kings did it with Dustin Brown moving on to Anze Kopitar. Like, there are various examples of this happening. It's not necessarily an indictment on the player. It's just at some point the franchise needs to move on and go in a different direction, have a different voice leading the way. And why wouldn't it be Austin Matthews? He's the best player on the team. He's the most productive player. Like, he's got the biggest kind of persona and personality. Like, you've won one playoff series in 8 years now. How can doing something different be any worse? Especially when it comes to kind of putting the best player in charge of the group.
There are plenty of people in Leaf Nation, Frankie, that I think agree with you. Here's an interesting thing. Leafs players and Sheldon Keefe will be speaking to the media on Monday, Frankie, and maybe we'll get a little more clarification on Austin Matthews' injury during that first-round series. But for Leaf management, their media availability won't happen until Thursday. What do you make of this scheduling, Frankie?
This is a little bit of a reminder as far as how many moving parts are involved in this operation. I did find it interesting that they just said Leafs management, like they didn't name any specifics, which is something that they've done in years past. But, you know, like MLSC, there's a board of directors, there's an ownership group, then there's upper management within the Maple Leafs. Like, everyone needs to get on the same page as far as what the communication is going to be, what kind of messages are we going to want to portray, and quite frankly, Jay, like, what is the plan? Like, what kind of plan are they going to put in place from top to bottom and say that they're going to execute on it? Like, I don't think this is one of those things with all of those people involved that you just show up the next day and say, okay, we have it, we're going to do this, and everyone's going to be happy with it. Like, it's going to take a little while here for them to get their ducks in a row and make sure that they nail down the messaging, because this is a fan base now that has seen the same song and dance year after year after year with no changes. changes need to happen. They need to convey that message with as much clarity as possible before the fan base really starts to lose faith in what this organization is all about and where they're going.
I think many of them may already have lost that faith, Frankie, but we will find out this week for sure. I should also mention, just trying to always find some positive stuff here, Frankie. Austin Matthews nominated for the Selke Award as the league's top defensive forward, completely deserving, had a terrific year defensively.